Okay, tonight we often have, always have some really interesting folks that come on here. Tonight, Eric Michaels is a particularly striking watercolor artist. I look at his work and I'm in awe, and I'm very happy. I'm very happy that he's here because this is his first attempt at a Zoom meeting, and if it weren't for his patience and Carol Syracuse's patience, I'm not sure how far we would have gotten here. But the two of them hung in there, and we got it worked out. And so we'll have this, I think, wonderful experience by a terrific watercolor artist, Eric Michaels. Don't laugh at his jokes. It's okay. It's all right. So, Eric.
Oh, the pressure's on. Thanks. Welcome, everybody. And thank you to the Niagara Frontier Watercolor Society for allowing me to share what I love to do with you tonight. Wow, this, as they've already intimated, this is my first Zoom video, or what I guess that's what they call it. And again, I do have to thank everybody, Mike and Carol and Sally, who sat in with me early on trying to navigate me through the slalom of things that needed to be done. And a real special thanks to a wonderful Delaware artist, a fabulous artist, Sarah Yeoman, who was really generous with her time and spent some time on the phone walking me through this also. So anyway, here we are. We'll see how it goes. I have been a professional artist for 40 years. I started in watercolor, and I became a signature member of the National Watercolor Society sometime before the Crimean War. I don't even remember anymore. It's early 80s, I think. And that has been the underlying mainstay of my whole career. I've always had watercolors with me. My career has included other mediums too. I worked in pastels and became a signature member of the Pastel Society of America. And then in the 90s, I took up oils, and I'm also a signature member of the Oil Painters of America. So I've had a pretty eclectic professional career. And along with that, I've had pretty eclectic subject matter. It's ranged from, portraits to architecture to Western pieces to landscapes. As watercolor goes at this stage in my life, I still paint some large historical and Western oils for auctions. I have a couple of galleries, but my watercolors are pretty much now mostly landscapes, which is what I'm going to do tonight. So I invite folks in there to ask questions. I'll be glad to answer them as I'm painting along. And what I think I want to do, rather than talk about me, is sort of start a little bit talking about what I do, and everybody wants to know what tools you use. So let me talk a little bit about that. I'll show you my palette in a minute when we get onto the camera that has the painting in it. But let's see, the paper that I use and have been using for a little while now is the Arches 156, mostly rough for my landscapes, and I keep some cold press around if I'm doing more drawing on them, more stuff that requires more drawing, like portraits or figures. I'm going to repeat that because Carol said she'd never heard of it. It's Arches 156, hot press. Why the 156? Actually, it has just enough tensile strength to it that I don't have to stretch even half sheets, and I work pretty wet, so I can tape it down and it holds up very well for me. So I kind of like it. It's a nice paper. The only one I know that carries it is Dick Blick. I hope they send me some for telling you that. Anyway, pigment. My pigment, I use Da Vinci. I like Da Vinci paints. I've used so many different kinds over my entire career, just about everything available. And I like Da Vinci. Every artist sort of settles on a consistency in their paintings. I like Da Vinci because it's always consistent in its pigment and its texture. So you get used to something. I like that. It can be purchased in different places. I generally buy it in 37 milliliter tubes because I go through a lot of paint. What else do you need to know? Oh, brushes. Yeah. I'm not real picky about my brushes. I used to be, when I was younger, I used to only use Kolinsky Sable. Now kind of grab things that suit my purpose. More the style of the brush than the maker. I don't know if you can see these. I've got.
Yeah.
I guess you can.
Yeah, we
There
No,
can.
we
we
go.
can.
Can you see these?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I got onto. I like these mops. I got onto these a couple of years ago. I wasn't using them most of my watercolor career, but I've got like a sort of a medium and a small one, and I don't even know what they are. One's an Escoda and one's a Raphael. I like those for laying in big washes if I need them. I have an even fatter one if I'm doing a full sheet. I use flat, 1-inch flat a lot. I've been using it my entire watercolor career, and between my wash brush and the flat, I probably do about 90% of my painting.
I love that.
Literally. And then finishing work, calligraphy, stuff like that will come in at the end. But most of my work's done with these two brushes. I have an Escoda round. I think it's a 10. That's nice for sort of intermediate work. I keep a small brush for some detail at the end, should it need any. I'll talk more about my approach and my style as we get into the painting. But and then I have a little rigger, which I just dropped on the floor that I don't use too often, but sometimes for branches. So that's basically my brush selection. And sometimes the makers change, just kind of depends what's on sale and what's not. What else do you need to know? Yeah, I'll show you my palette in a second and tell you the pigments. Let me see if I can find that rigger. I just don't use it.
While you're looking for the rigger, Eric, I forgot to tell people that if you have questions, since everybody's muted, if you have questions during the demonstration, you can put them in the chat. And Mike or I will pick a time when it seems appropriate. We can ask Eric for you. I hope everybody understands what the chat is, but I guess on iPads, it's up at the top. On regular computers, it's down at the bottom. I don't know where it is on an iPhone. Okay. Sorry for interrupting.
It's okay. Yeah, is it done yet? I'm just kidding. So what I'd like to do now is if it's okay with you, Carol, I would like to go over to the maybe where the painting is. Can you bring up that one, and I'll bring my palette in. Perfect.
There you go.
How you doing there? Is that pretty good?
Yep.
Yeah.
Better?
Don't change
Worse?
it. Don't touch it.
Okay. All right. Done. When I'm painting in the studio, you can see this is a John Pike palette. I like it. It's got big mixing surfaces, which suits me well since I mix large washes. And I'll go over my my pigments. Again, I use Da Vinci and pretty basic stuff. This is ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, a blue I don't use that often, but I do occasionally, cerulean blue. This is Viridian, which I don't use often, but sometimes. It's a cold green and it's transparent and that works well sometimes. I keep some white on my palette for, I don't mix it into washes, but I do use it sometimes in the finishing stages of a painting. Not much, just in small amounts. This is an interesting one. This is Hansa Yellow. It's a lemon yellow. Again, it's a Da Vinci pigment. It's my substitute for cadmium lemon or something like that. It's a very, very cool, or areolan or something. I like it because it's cheap and it does the same thing those other pigments do. So that would be my recommendation if you want to save some money and have something that works well. This is my overall workhorse yellow, and that's New Gamboge. I like it. It's not as milky as the cadmiums, and there's no yellow that's really transparent. Areolan is probably the closest. But this is that works pretty well. Raw sienna, keep that on my palette. Love it for autumn scenes, winter scenes, making beautiful grays. This is Naples yellow, which I don't use in any mixtures, but at the end of, sometimes it's great to have an almost opaque paint to put on some branches or a little calligraphy or something in the painting. It's a nice alternative to using pure white. Sometimes you want a warm stroke that's sort of transparent. It's mostly for detail. I don't use it very often. You still looking, you can still see this? Is
Yep.
it obvious? This is cadmium red. I think it's medium. Something that I'll use just to for color notes. I mix it up sometimes to make some nice neutral gray violets. It's pretty opaque, and but it does granulate well. So I keep it on here. I don't use it a lot, but I do it sometimes. This is more of a workhorse red. This is Alizarin Crimson. Real nice for its transparency, and of course, you want to get some really good darks. This is a way to go. Here's one I use a whole bunch. That it's Venetian red. Makes wonderful, wonderful grays, and it's not necessarily transparent. It's kind of semi-opaque, but I use it a lot. I use it in a lot of paintings. Almost a painting doesn't go by I don't find some use for this. And this is burnt sienna when I'm looking for those really, really good transparent darks. I'll use my burnt sienna. So that's about it. If anybody's questions along the way, just chime right in.
Sharon Bartell wants to know, what width is your flat wash brush? That was the 1 inch, I think.
Yeah. Well, let me show her. Whatever one's on sale. The one that I showed you is let's see, what is this one? It's a Cotman 1-stroke. Although it takes more, I find, when I'm using it. But it's a Cotman 777, I guess. This one is a Blick Studio Synthetic 1 inch. That works pretty well too. This one is the one I've been using for a long time. It's a Princeton Elite, but I can't find it anymore. And actually, Utrecht made the one I liked the most, and they stopped making it, and I don't know why. So I've learned to kind of work with the other ones. You'll see me use this a lot in the painting tonight. It's one of these for sure. Any other questions on the paint or the paper at this point, or the brushes? Okay. I showed you my John Pike Studio palette. I want to just throw a little note here about plein air painting. I do a lot of plein air painting. I've been lucky in my career. I have been able to take my watercolors and travel across 4 different continents, painting, landscapes, architecture, the economy of living, the markets, the people. I mean, I've got just stacks of sketchbook paintings from all over the world. And my favorite, what I use when I go on plein air painting, even locally, is the Plein Air Pro Traveler. It's the Traveler model. It's called, you can go to pleinairpro.com. It's a wonderful lightweight outfit without the paper, without the pigment and the water in it. The whole outfit weighs about 7.5 pounds, and it fits in the day pack, and it goes under my seat in front of me on the plane. And I can take at least 3 weeks worth of stuff in that for painting. So it really, really, really works out well. Very handy.
Eric, I have a question.
And then this.
When you paint in plein air, how big,
Pardon me
what
now?
size paper do you use?
Okay. Can you see this okay?
Yes.
This has been my plein air travel palette since for over 40 years. And it's a Holbein folding palette. And 40 years it's gone with me all over the world. It's painted in the deserts, it's painted in the jungles, it's painted in mountaintops and down the bottom of the Grand Canyon. And it has held up, at least internally, really well. I think this tray came loose about 2 years ago after 30 some years of using this. And I was griping to my wife how they just don't make things like they used to last, but I got it fixed, and it's still there. If you want something that lasts probably longer than you will, I really recommend this. They're kind of pricey, but this is a 40+ year testament to its durability and usefulness. Folds up nicely, fits in my day pack with my other stuff.
Mike, you want to ask again?
Pardon me?
Yeah, Eric, can you tell me, when you travel, what size paper do you take?
Good point. Yeah, when I'm traveling, I usually work in quarter sheets or 9x12s or something like that.
Okay.
But That depends, if I'm traveling locally, I might be painting half sheets, but when I'm traveling abroad or traveling to other states, something like that, yeah, I want stuff that'll fit inside that day pack with my outfit. And I find that works. I'm usually like, I'm trying to think, my wife usually goes with me on these trips, but like when we went to Bali, we were there about 2 months. I think I did like 90 paintings. I'm like kind of a nutcase with it. But then everybody goes, oh my God. But when you think about it, you do a couple of 45-minute paintings. I mean, it leaves you a little time in the day to mess around. And they were all business trips. I didn't have any fun on any of them. So that was good. And then here's something, if you don't know about this, I'd like to tell you about. Let's see if I can get this to.
Yeah, it's good.
Perfect. Well, this is John Carlson's Guide to Landscape Painting. And most of my cohorts that I've painted with in so many places over the years, we all have this. All the artists I respect, they all have this. This is a great book. You can buy it in paperback, just like this, not expensive. And it has everything you want to know about what you're looking at, what you're seeing. This is just an amazing thing. It's worth having. This is sold. It was $5.95. It might be like $10 now, but it's definitely worth an investment, and I highly recommend it. Okay, enough to dribble.
We have one question back to your palette. You don't have to bring it out, but what kind of white do you use? Is that gesso or not gesso?
No, it's just titanium white.
Okay.
Titanium white.
All right. Thanks.
Just standard titanium white. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing special about it. I don't, as I mentioned before, I don't use a lot of white, but I do. Sometimes you forget a fence post, or maybe you just want to add a highlight or something like that. I mean, it's I'm not one of those purists. Oh my God, you can't use that kind of stuff. We're all painters. The whole idea is to get something that's a really good painting, and it doesn't matter how you do that. And it doesn't matter you paint on location, or you paint in your studio, or you stand on your head. What really matters is the final product, and however you get to it, that's the important thing. It does look dark down there in that corner. Is that better? So anyway, let's see. Anything else I needed to tell you? You're looking at the paper. I don't know if you can see, there's a drawing on there, but not much of one. When I'm going to, especially in landscape painting, unless there's something architectural or figurative in it, I make some notes, basically, just a few notes to try to figure out where my big shapes might be and some directions. And my feeling is this, we're kids, they always grade us on how well we stay between the lines, But in watercolor, I always grade my students on how well they go outside the lines. You've got to be able to partner with watercolor. It's got to take you places you hadn't even imagined in every painting you're doing. It's the only way real magic can happen. And so what I try to do is just make some suggestions, so I'm not like just absolutely married to these areas. That way it allows me to do something. And when I'm painting full blast, there's a part of me that's going into the painting. I'm partnering with the watercolor. Sometimes it'll take me and do things that I didn't expect. Most often the paintings I'm going to paint don't look anything when I'm done like they did in my head, and I'm happy with that. So it remains exciting that way. So what I'm going to do tonight is a snow scene, and I chose that for a couple of reasons. One, practical reason is that it's a little bit less area I have to wait for to dry. I don't like waiting for paintings to dry. So I think I can do this without having to bring a hairdryer to it. And you might think that's kind of strange, but when you're working wet, quick explanation, we'll get into this. You all know that you paint watercolors. You're all aware of the fact that watercolor pigment has sedimentation in it, and that sedimentation will mix with the paper, and it settles into the valleys of the painting. And that granulation you see when you're done is like no other medium can do that. Only watercolor can do it. And you can only do that if you're working quickly and you're not scrubbing it back and forth out of the valleys. Well, when a passage is wet and that granulation's sitting there and everything's just right, if you take a hairdryer to it before the sheen comes off, it wipes out all that granulation. So I'm not saying that I don't use a hair dryer, but I rarely start to use a hair dryer until the actual sheen is gone off of the wash. When you're painting outside, it's quicker, of course, which is great. But inside, I'm very careful not to go in. So that's why I sort of selected a painting that's kind of a generic snow scene. And the second thing in my approach is I look for the large, obvious shapes. And I figure if I can paint each of those large, obvious shapes the right value and with interest, when I'm done blocking it in or putting those shapes in, my painting is about 80% done. Then all I have to do is make some thoughts or figure out what I want to do in terms of calligraphy, adding a little detail, some design, something like that. So I like to get the basic shapes in. And then one last thing, and we'll leave this and I'll start painting. You take your large value areas. So I'll have a light value area, a middle value area, let's say, in a dark value area. Okay. Those are the pigment and what you put into that. They have a certain the middle value will have middle value paint in it. In other words, you wouldn't take the dark area, which say could be a 7, 8, or 9 value, and then move over and put one of those values in the middle of your sky. In other words, each of these areas has a peculiar range that works for that particular area. So I tell my students that in every one of those, the dark, middle, and light, there is a dark, middle, and light that is peculiar to that area. So when I'm working wet into wet, by the time I'm done, if I've achieved that, when that dries, I will have dark, middles, and lights in my dark area that are peculiar to that dark area. Then, of course, you're allowed to have a white fence post or a white roof or a house or something in one of those. But I'm just saying that your massive areas should stand alone so that you have some kind of a design, something that can read properly. Pretty long-winded, didn't mean to get into that, but let me start out here, and we'll see what happens. I'm gonna, like I said, sort of paint some kind of winter scene. One last thing, it may at some point get a little shiny with the wet, so I will try to remember periodically while it's drying to lift this up so that you can see it without the shine. But we'll start in and see what happens. And again, you are welcome to ask me any questions except what's in my mixture, because it's my keyboard. I don't know most times what's in my mixture. I'm just sort of painting along, but I'll try to let you know. I'll try to let you know little things. Like I'm gonna start out here with a bit of cobalt blue, and we'll get something kind of basic down here. I'm not gonna mess with the sky too much. It won't be that important in the final analysis. Add a little warmth at the bottom. When Gauguin came back from France, from Tahiti, the one time he came back, he had an exhibition in Paris, and it wasn't very successful. But when Degas walked into the exhibition, he looked at the paintings, he goes, "My God," he said, this man paints like a pig eats. And I thought about that, and I think that's kind of how I paint. Robert E. Wood, famous, wonderful watercolorist, deceased now, National Academy. He's always said that one should paint right at the edge of your control. I thought that was a really good. Lesson, because at that point you're forced to partner with the watercolor and kind of go wherever it goes. There's some nice things that happen there. I could never do that again. Like I said, this is going to be my backdrop anyway. This will be except for the white snow, this will be my next lightest area. So I'll probably do that, finish some stuff on there, and then I think what I'll do is go down to the foreground and mess around. No, that's kind of setting up. So there's not much buckling of it all in this 156 paper, which is kind of neat. That was, that little yellow splash on there was raw sienna. Put something in here for, I need some interest in here, so we'll put something in here for. So with my far distant background. If you hear the sound of like a snap of a brush, that's me. I'm I've never learned to wipe my brush off on anything. The only time I do that is when I'm in a cafe or my car or a bar or somebody's house. Other than that, I tend to shake my brush out. And after decades of doing that, I kind of know exactly how much water and pigment is left on.
Eric, what color are those trees there?
Yeah, that's just all it is a little more of that cobalt blue and a little more of that raw sienna. So I got cobalt blue and raw sienna in the sky. It harmonizes a little bit that way.
Okay.
And maybe just a couple of tones down here at the.
That looks darker than cobalt blue, and you got a really good dark for those two pigments.
Yeah, it'll fade out as it sets up. I hope you can see this granulation in here. I don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
Yes.
I don't lift this up. Can you? Yeah, that's the kind of thing that I think if you're painting watercolors adroitly and not scrubbing them to death, you can end up with these wonderful granulations. The more I go over this, I can drop pigment in, but the more I swipe it in, I'm wiping that granulation out of the valleys in there, and therein lies the problem. Then I'll lose all of that granulation. Or if I go with a hairdryer right now and I dry that, ball game. It's going to be it'll be gone. And here's an educational FYI for everyone as regards granulation. A couple of years ago, I went to paint the cranberry bogs on Cape Cod in the autumn. It's kind of like an acid trip. It's like so much stuff going on. It's amazing color. But I had to fly into Boston, and so I remember that Boston has several good museums, but their public museum has a nice selection of John Singer Sargent paintings.
Oh yes.
You've been there.
Yes.
Well, what I found out, and I hope this is still the case, that the public, us, we can go and request to see. They don't always display their watercolors in museums, as you all know, which is very frustrating. But you can make an appointment to go see the John Singer Sargent watercolors. So I did that. I flew in and I went to the museum, and they put me in a room, and a young lady brought me 70 John Singer Sargent half sheet watercolors in mats, unframed and in mats. And
Wow.
I went through box after box, and it was just what I never saw, which you can never see in the reproductions, was this incredible granulation of the pigments in his watercolors. I was unaware of that. And I had to be very careful not to get tears on the paintings. But she told me, you can pick them up by the mat, just don't touch them. I was like, oh my God, this could be happening to me. But anyway, you might want to consider that sometime if you know there's a public museum that you want to check on their collections. I probably could have spent the afternoon looking at maybe Winslow Homer watercolors or something.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them there too.
Yeah, I was just anxious to get painting, and I'm just putting in some. I need to put some interest in this foreground. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be yet, but do something to. Might be too much here. Yeah, I'm just putting some vague interest in here. I'm going to turn it into something because I'm going to have some busyness over here. So I think I'm going to put a little there. Let's put some here too. This is mostly a cobalt blue with a touch of violet, not much. We'll put some. This is always dangerous, but I'm going to just put a very slight amount of something down here because, whoops, not that necessarily. Everybody knows that things, their value gets lighter and cooler as things recede, except for snow and clouds. They get darker and warmer.
I didn't know that.
And if you don't believe me, buy the John Carlson book. No, there's stuff in there that's just amazing. And then you go out and you go, what? And you go out and you look at it, you go, my God, he's right. And it really is a stepping stone, springboard to helping one see on location. Let's see how we're doing on this stuff. We'll put a little, make sure this is fairly dry. Well, let's see. Almost ready to do some more work there. Put a little dab of light blue down here. After that initial sky passage gets pretty dry, we'll be cooking along. Yeah, I snapped my brush mostly into the wastebasket here, but not totally. And I have two sets of painting clothes. I have one set that has paint all over it. I have another set that's about ready to get paint all over it. And that pretty much is my entire wardrobe. This one just on the end there. It's close enough. We might be able to start in on this. Let's mix up some. Get one of these little value areas going over here. So I like these flat brushes. You can do so much. You can do so much with them. Right now, I don't really know what's gonna happen here. I'm just kind of feeding pigment in there to see what's going to go. Again, if I don't scrub that tree area here too much, I can retain some of that granulation in there. So I'm gonna just kind of dump it in and let it mix with the other paint. It's the safest thing to do. We'll put some, let's feed a little color in here too.
You still using cobalt and raw sienna?
You know what, I'm throwing the kitchen sink at it right now. It's, yeah, I got a little of everything on there. I got some burnt sienna. I added some ultramarine into the scene. Kind of feeling my way along here with this as much as possible. These washes, I start them out and then, you don't have to get down to the final value immediately. You can kind of work your way down gradually. I mean, it's really hard to mix a large wash of like a number 6 or 7 or 8 value or something like that. So what you do is, you mix in kind of the middle and then you just start gradually sort of bringing things down toward it. This will be the more uninteresting of the 2 tree masses here. I just want to kind of get a little something going in here. This will be more the middle value of that. As it dries and gets darker, subsequent strokes will sit in and not spread as far. So you can change the, again, I'm just sort of still wet, so I'm still dumping pigment into this. So let it kind of spread a little bit.
Could you bring, just because we're curious, just bring over your palette in front of the camera again, just so that we can see what a big messy puddle you have? Or
sure. In this, I will in just a minute.
Yeah, when it's appropriate. Or if it is appropriate.
What happens is, once you commit to a wash for an area, there's kind of a tempo. What I mean by that, there's a drying tempo.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And that you have to abide by.
Yeah.
And what you've all done that. We've all done that where something is sort of dried, and then you go back in with too much water, and you see balloons and stuff like that. Well, as it darkens down and you want to add darker and darker pigment, you need to let I need to let this dry. So there's a start to finish sort of procedure.
Mm-hmm.
I have literally taken like a full sheet and kept it wet for like an hour and a half working a wash in it. I mean, you can do that if you just are gradually adding darker pigment, you're still keeping it wet, but we'll just leave that for now. Right now, I'm gonna go over the other section over there. Just need some scrub in here.
Gracious.
Okay, we'll just leave that for now. Oh, yeah. That's
That's
there
what
it
I
is.
thought.
Yeah, it's a mess. Yeah, so I'm gonna spray that and get rid of that and start something anew. I'm gonna save my most interesting stuff for the other side of the painting. It's good to orchestrate your designs. This will be what I would call semi-interesting when I'm done. It won't be that important. It's mostly a value shape. And then at the very end, you can always go in and like do a little calligraphy. But if your values aren't correct and the shapes aren't interesting and they're not formed in a great way, all the one hair brush work in the whole world will not salvage a painting. It just won't happen. Sad but true. Everything happens in the big areas.
What colors are you using now, Eric?
I got some Phoenician red and some that gamboge.
Mhm.
Just looking pretty. Oh, you can see it good. You see it better than I do, actually. I'm kind of getting a lot of glare. This is, I'm niggling this area, so just gonna try to make something interesting out of this if I can. Let's take some. Let's see what happens with it. Good darks. Make it sit down and get rid of some of the glare. So I'm just pushing some pigment around here right now. Just kind of try to turn that into something fairly interesting later. I don't know, we'll see. I feel like I need to put some of this red in here too.
There was a question about whether this is hot press or cold press, and you said it was rough, but it's cold press rough, isn't it? Or
No, there's a cold press and there's a rough. The cold press is smoother.
okay,
This is the little rougher version of that.
Mhm.
Start this segment over here.
Whoa.
Just as shocked as you are. Let's see what we can do with this.
That's gotta be, is that ultramarine? Looks like,
Cobalt.
is it cobalt still?
Eric, is that cobalt?
That was ultramarine, little alizarin. Trying to set up a little interest inside this mass, a little contrast.
We're sort of getting the painting moved over to the right. Can you possibly move
Oh,
it?
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm a person who likes to pick up and manipulate the
Yeah, understood.
surface, but it's not always practical, you know.
I think we're seeing almost all of it. It's just a little bit of.
Oh,
space.
let's see. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay.
All right, you got it all now.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
got
no,
it.
no, wrong.
Whoops.
You just went into profile. Remember, we don't do that. Oops. Uh-oh. We
I
lost
think
you.
I didn't touch the camera. I didn't touch my phone. I mean,
Well,
what happened?
you must have, because you must have hit the video part of it.
Video, yeah.
We've lost the video of your painting.
You got a blank
Huh.
screen.
Okay, hold on. Oh, shoot.
We shouldn't have asked you to move it.
Hang on, I'm gonna pick it up.
Tell us about your music career.
I don't know what's going on.
We just, when you signed into with your phone, when we initially, you signed into the video part of the Zoom. There we go.
Hey, that's Carol.
I'm not
Eric,
getting
there you go. Hit.
All right.
You've got to turn your camera back on. You're still connected, but your camera's not turned on. So you want to find the button for that.
Yeah, my phone's not coming up is the problem.
Which is also
It's
your
not-
camera.
It's not turning on. And I don't know why.
Did you run out of battery?
I had it plugged in. I should not have, but it may have.
All right. Well, don't freak out. We'll be fine.
Well, geez. What can I do? Hang on. Maybe you can invite my wife's phone.
No, you could just turn off your phone and put it back on again and sign into the Zoom meeting.
Well, the phone's not coming on, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So maybe you're out of juice in the phone.
He said he had
I
it
can't
plugged in.
figure out why. It was 100%. Don't go anywhere. I'm gonna have you invite my wife's phone.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. Doggone it. That's-
Always an adventure.
Yeah, I will put us on gallery so everybody can see. Sorry about that, everybody. The lesson learned is don't ask him to do anything different with his camera.
Yeah, when you got it going, leave it alone.
Yeah. Oh dear. So is Sally still here?
Doing
Should
a
you do-
wonderful job though, Carol. Thank you so
Well,
much.
Mike, do you want to tell us about your plein air experience?
Let's see, which one? Should I tell you about the one in India? Did I tell you about the cows? I must have told you that. We were in India and I walked away from, I wanted to show the traffic, which was insane, just crazy. And so we got stalled in this one place. It's foggy in the morning in the north of India because the humidity and the cold comes down from the Himalayas and it creates a lot of fog. So we were going to take a railroad trip and the railroad stopped because people walk on the tracks and the trains don't have radar. So they don't run the trains when it's really foggy. So I thought, well, I can go paint someplace. So I walked away from the hotel and I don't know, maybe I walked a half a mile away. Once you get away from anything with tourists, people don't bother you at all. Otherwise they bother you a lot. Anyway, I went
Okay.
to this
Where's Carol?
back.
Right here.
Okay, I'll tell you the story another time.
Carol?
So,
Who am I inviting?
Maxine Michaels, 57 at Gmail.
Okay. Let's see, here's copy the link. Maxine, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to give it to me again.
Maxine Michaels, 57 at gmail.com.
Okay. I'm gonna go back over to my other little device here.
I'm going to continue on here while you're doing that.
okay,
I think we're kind of. Well,
Eric, let me ask you something. If
Sure.
Carol can't get this to connect, can you turn, we're looking at an iPad or the picture we see of you from the side, can you turn that camera around to look at your painting?
Maybe so. I don't know if I
That
can
would be a
tilt
good
it
backup.
forward far enough. I can certainly try.
I'm sorry that it's taking me so long.
Are you seeing anything, Mike?
Yes, yes. Keep going.
Where are you there? Okay. I'm looking, what am I looking at? I want you to see the painting here.
Right.
See if I can. You getting anything on there?
Yeah. We don't see the painting yet, but I can see your drawing table with brushes and palettes and stuff. That's better. That's getting better.
Now it can maybe,
Yeah, you're getting there.
okay. But I'm running out of. I don't know if I can get any better angle than that though. Without being in front of me. How you doing there? You got anything on there at all?
Yeah,
Oh, man.
it ain't perfect, but it's working.
Now I've got to try and salvage something out of this. Well, you may not want to post this one on your site.
No, we will, because it's just shows that we're all human.
Real life.
Yeah. So I'm getting like too late to take advantage of that wash. So,
Okay, here we go.
did you send me up the email?
I am right now. I couldn't-
Okay.
It'll make everybody feel good. I couldn't find the Zoom link.
It's like something. Come on in.
Okay, here we go. It just went out.
Okay, I'm waiting.
So I'll continue with my story about the cow.
Okay.
So I walked until I found this intersection where there was a lot of crazy traffic and there was a kind of a water fountain there. And I sat down on the water fountain to paint this scene. Well, you know, anybody who ever painted plein air, you always get an audience. So people come around looking to see what's this guy who's not from local. What is he doing? What is he painting? So I'm painting the scene and people are standing around behind me. And after a while, you know, in India, the cows come along. You can't touch the cow because they believe that a deity lives inside their cows. That's why they're sacred. So I'm painting, and after a while, this cow comes along, this big drooling
Let
cow.
me in, Carol.
Okay,
Go ahead.
here you go.
Okay.
Now you're gonna come on only with video, no audio.
Okay, you hear me at all?
Yeah.
So we can hear you. I'm looking for what might be your video.
There it is. I got to,
I'm
See
looking
any
at
yet?
all these little boxes and trying to figure out which one is you.
okay, I'm putting it in the holder here. Let's see if we can get.
You're upside down, Eric.
Okay.
I'm trying to find him.
I
It's
don't see
under
him either.
Max, MAX.
Yeah, I
You
got,
got it?
I got that.
Are you seeing the painting yet?
Yes, we can see it, but you're upside down.
Upside down. Why would that be? Let's see.
There you go. Now try it.
Oh, upside down, it's going on you. There you go.
How's
Perfect.
that?
That's
Better?
good.
I'm
Very
gonna,
good.
I'm gonna spotlight it for everyone.
Oh,
And you
yeah,
s-
that's great.
Okay, don't do a thing, just paint.
Okay.
Yes, paint.
It looks good.
Yeah, it does.
Has she got an
You know,
iPhone?
this is like driving and texting. That's what it feels like. I don't do that, and that's why. Yeah, I'm gonna have to it's gonna take some adjusting here. Well, we'll salvage something out of this.
So you've had what happened is your washes have dried so you couldn't continue to work.
Yeah, I've lost the ability to do the complete wash. So I don't really know what I'll have to wait at this point. So it'd be more of a direct painting than a. I probably would have been better off starting over with a quarter sheet at this point.
No, we have.
You're
faith.
doing fine. You're doing fine.
Oh, man. Wow. Yeah. Well, let's clean up and start over. Ah,
So Deb Meyer says that Sarah Yeoman had issues last night during her Zoom class. So this is the week of Zoom issues.
God. What I gotta get is Max, my wife, to bring her charger in. So I can, yeah, keep her phone plugged in here. So hold on a second.
No, you don't have to go get her. Why don't I call her? What's her?
What's that?
Oh, no, I can't call her. Your
Right.
phone is
Hang
here.
on. Hey, Max.
Right.
That doesn't do any good. You have to call her on your phone, but your phone is dead.
Well, so just go ahead with the painting. That's all right.
No, the phone may run
Okay,
out of charge.
let me, let's do some stuff down here. This isn't about over yet, is it?
No, you've got another whole hour.
That's good, because that's running a little behind now. Let's try a few things here. Thank you. Well, let me see. Okay, that can go. I need to plug your phone in anywhere. Thank you. All right, don't panic, Carol. I'm plugging Max's phone in. Okay, we still got you?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. All right, let's do some stuff here. Unreal.
Well, here's something to make you feel good. Michael Booth says, if the video ended now, I've still learned enough to keep me busy for weeks experimenting with all the possibilities Eric has demonstrated.
Wow.
Bravo.
Thanks, Michael, wherever you are.
I think just looking into the John Carlson's Guide to Landscape Painting, but
think I was born too late. Should have been born in back further when they didn't have all this stuff.
I also bought some of that 156 from Dick Blick while you were working.
Yeah, that's I like the paper. The greatest paper ever made was the, in my humble opinion, was the Fabriano Exportazione, which they stopped making. It was a totally handmade paper. Oh God, I think I cried the day that I found out they weren't going to be making it anymore.
Was that a thicker or a heavier paper like that?
It was a heavier paper. It was so beautiful. It was, every piece was handmade, and
Oh, boy.
it was just gorgeous stuff. You know, toward the end, it got to be so expensive. I mean, it was, you know, as you can imagine, because it was getting limited amounts, but it was just absolutely great for everything. It was just a great paper, and they still make the Fabriano Artistico, and you know, I don't want to disparage it too much because I know there's artists out there that really like it, but I don't think it works nearly as well as I'm gonna do some things I couldn't do here earlier. I'm doing some now, just to putting a little interest in areas that I probably would have tried to get done with in the wet wash at the time. So what I'm trying to do is just make this salvage this piece. That's what I'm trying to do right now. Can't find my little rigger, so I got to use some other stuff.
So do you paint every day?
Pretty much, yeah. I even if I'm working on, you know, sometimes I have oil. Sometimes I have oil commissions or auctions I've got to get oil paintings for. But even on those days, I try to set some time aside for my watercolors every day, even if it's just a small discovered piece like I did earlier today. What's this thing? All right.
Are you mixing? What you accomplished going from one phone to the next for somebody who's never done a Zoom demonstration before, I think you deserve an A+.
Absolutely.
I'll have nightmares about this.
Well, we won't. We'll look at this and say, damn, that guy pulled a rabbit out of a hat.
Set up a little. I was doing this, just did a little calligraphy and some interest in the foreground here. We'll put some shadows in there in a bit, and that'll help. I'm sorry I lost that wet wash there. A lot of it was supposed to look like that. So get an idea anyway. Clean up my palette here a bit. Can almost get my palette in here, huh? Do some scumbling here to just sort of cast a little interest down in this area. Well, I'm gonna have to lower the price on this one to 8,000, I think. Don't labor over this too much longer. I've kind of lost the flow of this, but
But you've managed to hold on to a path, a visual path that leads you into the background.
yeah, I mean, yeah, there's, here's the cool thing about watercolors. There's two cool things. One, the page has two sides. That's one. And the second thing is, I always, when I finish a watercolor, whether I like it or not, I have a whole bunch of mats cut, just all various sizes. And I will take them to go looking inside the watercolor in areas. And it's you can always find some, I tell myself I can always find some area where my mind checked out and I got something right. It's like, and it's true. I mean, it's a nice thing about watercolor. You get to you can recover. It's often do a full sheet and end up with an 8x10. I mean, that's not an unusual thing. I figure, what the hell, I painted it, so.
Sure. But I really, I have to tell you, I think you're doing a marvelous job on that half sheet, really.
Well, thanks, Mike. Shoot some of this stuff down.
Seems like most snow paintings, there's a wonderful snow painter up in Ontario. Gord Jones was a member of our organization. But
I like Gordon's work.
yeah, it's mostly grays and blues, or blue, a lot of blue. And I don't, maybe it's the color, the way it's coming through. Doesn't look like there's as much blue in yours, and yet it's like a warmer snow. Maybe it's like Michigan.
Maybe.
Most of my winter scenes are, I paint them with 3 pigments for the most part. I do a lot of paintings that have triads, a yellow, blue, and a red. And and it can be various combinations. Sometimes it could be cobalt blue, alizarin crimson, and gamboge. Sometimes it can be ultramarine, raw sienna, and burnt sienna. I mean, sometimes the winter has this wonderful sort of monochromatic thing to it that, plus with those three colors, you're always going to get some absolutely beautiful grays.
I still would like you to send me a photograph of this.
Oh, yeah,
This,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
can I send you one similar?
No. Are
I
you
guess we
using,
wouldn't be fooling anybody.
you're using white?
Yeah, I am right now. This is like, yeah. I think I'm flabbergasted enough to do anything at this point sometimes. That's, sorry about that. That was really bizarre. Sometimes, most of my wash is dry, so I'm trying to find a little bit of calligraphic interest in this. So I'm losing all my brushes here. Somewhere they're going. These are this is a Lowell Cornell Ultra Round. And I bought a couple of those and I really liked them. And then I went last time looking for them again. I couldn't find them. I don't know if they stopped making them or what.
Oh, we have information for you.
You got them.
Not Low Cornell, but Low Cornell was bought out by, oh dear, King Art, K-I-N-G-A-R-T, King Art, all one word. And they have a series, the 90-20 series of round,
Oh,
which is the old Low Cornell.
oh. Well, that's good.
We discovered it. We discovered it as a group here because Pam Wenger, who was our spring workshop artist, mentioned in one of her demos that she had recorded on her YouTube channel that she loved King Art brushes of the 90-20 series. And there's a group of us, they're inexpensive. Low Cornell is inexpensive and these are we all bought them.
Oh, they're expensive, huh?
No, they're inexpensive.
Oh,
They're
inexpensive,
incredibly
yeah.
inexpensive. And they're beautiful brushes. They make a wonderful point and they hold a lot of pigment. They're great. We recommend them to you if you want them.
What time we got here? How are we doing on time? Oh, we got a half an hour.
Don't forget
Anybody
that
still?
we have that share screen if you want me to put that up too. Of the four or five paintings that you sent to.
Oh, sure. If you'd like to, sure, that'd be great.
No, you tell me if that's something that you want. It's not.
Yeah. Either now or when we're done here, I could say a word about them.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna maybe have to like settle for what I've got here because
Don't be so concerned about what you're settling for because you have a really terrific looking piece.
Yes.
well, what happens sometimes, like if the wash dries prematurely, as in this case, it has one look when you take a wash from start to finish. It has one particular look that's attractive in its own special thing.
Yeah.
But once the wash is dried, then you can overpaint, which I do too. But if I do that, then that's the look I'll kind of go with. You know what I'm talking about? In other words,
Yeah.
I won't worry so much about the wet into wet. I would go more for the overpainting. Sometimes mixing them together, it can be kind of peculiar looking. But what I'm going to do is just do a little more calligraphy on here, and I'm going to clean some of this up and talk a little bit. I'll talk about the other paintings that you have that where the phone didn't go out, and all I can figure is I had it 100% charged when we started. And maybe the cord when I plugged it in before I started wasn't secure. It's the only thing I can think of. Otherwise, I don't know what happened. I wish I could find my little ringer.
It's under the wastebasket. I saw it go under there.
Yeah, I know. Probably is. Okay, let's spread out a little bit of the. Just going to put a couple of touches in here, and then that'll be good. Come on.
So did you go to college and study art? Is that at the beginning or not?
Well, I do have a BA in art. I tell people, despite that, I was actually able to have a career in art. It wasn't the best. I would go to the Art Institute. Was it who were you talking to? Wendy? Was that who we were talking to? Went to the Art Institute earlier before we went on the air.
Leslie Watkins.
Oh, Leslie, I'm sorry. Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean that's the route I would have gone, something like that, had I only known that. I grew up in a blue collar family. I didn't know there was an art world. I mean, I thought, I didn't know. I was like surprised to find out there were people making a living doing art.
But you didn't.
In fact,
you didn't grow up in Michigan, did you?
Pardon me now?
You moved to Michigan, but you didn't grow up there.
No, I grew up in Illinois. I was surprised to find out there was actually an art world, that was viable. That's why after I had a couple legitimate jobs, not too many. Then I went off on the road as a musician for many years, and when we finally moved to Santa Fe, that's when I started going. Hit 127 galleries and was like the representational art capital of the United States. And I hit it at the right time, and I got my juices flowing. And I was playing music 7 nights a week and some lunches to support, so we could stay there. And then, and then I suddenly, I don't know, I was struggled along like everybody does for years. And then one day I was everybody's best idea for a while. It was like weird, very strange. I won some big awards, and then suddenly galleries were calling me instead of me calling them and being turned down.
I think that's great. Like Sandy says, good recover, I'd say.
It's going to be okay. Not going to labor over it too much.
Is that a bird?
If you wish. Sure. Put a little interest maybe in the thing. this is sometimes where like a little bit of that Naples yellow can really come in handy. You can put a few suggestions of branches or things. They're not so obnoxious as like pure white, or I use it for much more than that. Well, I think I'm surrounding it here.
I think
All I
it's
can
good.
do tonight.
Might be time to say walk away from the painting.
What's that?
Might be time to say walk away from the painting.
Yeah, I think it is. It's that time when somebody needs to hit me over the head with a baseball bat and
Yeah.
get me out of here. Yeah, it takes two people. Yeah, you know the old thing. It takes two people to paint a painting, one to paint it, one to, hit them over the head before they ruin it. Robert E. Wood was a National Academy watercolorist, the real major influence in my early life, and he always said that this is especially true on location. I find this to be absolutely true. When you're on location, take your paintings to what you think are 70% done, and then walk away. Put them away, go home. And he said he found that 95% of the time you get back to the studio and there was nothing else to do on the painting. And I have found that to be true too. You're out there with all the blades of grass and all the stuff going on. You want to put everything in there. And he's right. You should, sometimes you just need to walk away early, and you're be really surprised to find out how infrequently you have to do anything else to it.
Mike, as you know, Mike Killalea is a plein air. We have another one who's watching tonight. Peggy Walker is a really wonderful plein air painter. You're probably identifying with a lot of what Eric said, right, Peg?
Yeah, if you painting plein air will accelerate one's growth exponentially, as opposed to working in the studio and working from photos. And that includes, when you say plein air, I mean that includes, painting a still life at home is painting plein air. So working from life, I guess, would be a better way to put it, will really help you exponentially.
Okay, I'm going to put the share screen on so you can talk about some of the paintings that you sent to me too.
Yeah, I'm gonna like lock this one down. I think just call it a day on this one, and yeah, and then lick my wounds and start again tomorrow. So what do you got up there? Oh yeah, this is from England. I love English. I've been to the British Isles so many times. I think this is in Sussex, and just a nice bend in the road, couple folks discussing things. I don't know if you can see that or not. My artwork over my career has been very eclectic just because of the travels. And so if anybody has any questions, let me know.
Yeah, people can unmute if you want and ask questions. I've taken the chat out of my view,
Sure.
so I can do this. Here's another one.
Yeah. I just got, we moved to the Midwest from up in Washington. We were on Birch Bay. We lived on Birch Bay, 7 miles from the Canadian border. And then I'm reading in the news the last couple of days that whole entire area has just been flooded, as you may be aware of. I mean, massive floods. But it's beautiful. It was beautiful watching the tides come in and out, and exciting country. Mexico. When I first started traveling, I didn't have a lot of money. I had more enthusiasm than I did money. So my first international trips were to Mexico's. Sometimes I go for a couple months at a time, just travel in the back roads with my watercolors. And this is a market from Etla near Oaxaca. I remember this one distinctly. Colorado. Yeah, Max and I moved to Colorado and I built a big house up in the hills, and the area of Colorado where we're in, Trinidad, got 300 days of sun. And it was just one of those peculiar areas where I got, the 14,000-foot mountains. And I also got winter days where it would snow and the next day would be 55 degrees and you could just walk around, stand in the snow and paint. And that was frequently what the winter was like. And this is a little arroyo not too far from Trinidad.
Beautiful.
Oh, this is right out back behind the house here. At the end of the yard, there's this woods that goes out there. And I was coming home from a hike last winter and saw this scene and I thought, I got to paint this. It was just like suddenly, this is like a portrait of something. It was like, oh my God, this is a painting. Yeah, I mean, when I was really young, like everybody, you walk around looking for the perfect waterfall to paint. And then eventually you realize that, there's in a blade of grass is everything you need to know about life. And your view starts to change. But yeah, this was just a fallen log right in my woods behind the house. This is, my favorite place to paint in the United States. And I have painted all over the United States, from backpack trips into the mountains to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. This is a stretch from Pacific Grove, California to where Big Sur begins. And that stretch along there is my favorite place to go out and paint in the United States. You can walk way out onto these cliffs with the water's banging all around you. It is it's spectacular and wonderful.
That's the 6 that you sent. I love this one. I think is just wonderful.
We're very, very moody, misty, moody. Yeah, very northwest. I like this one too. A lot of white paper that doesn't look like snow. Got away with a little bit there.
The just dry brush that you did to just get enough of blue in here. It's so clear that the light is reflecting off the water. It's just wonderful.
And this is a good example of what I was trying to do tonight, but didn't successfully pull off because of our break. But the trees in the background of this, the on the other side of that water there, it's just one passage. It's like one quick passage. It variates in value and it variates in intensity and warmth and cool. And that's something watercolor can do so well. And it's amazing. It really is. That's the one thing it's wonderful for, passages like that. All those paintings have some of that in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one, another one with it has.
Yeah, this is all. Yeah, the background of this above that cliff on the arroyo, that whole background was just painted in one passage, what into what, and I just left it.
Great.
I feel like cheating sometimes when you're doing that.
But then this one's for Peggy and me.
Yes, yes. We like the architecture.
Yeah. And
Oh yeah,
Michael,
Britain's great for architecture. Europe's great for architecture. Yeah.
Mike Killalay is a big architecture. I mean, he paints a lot of barns and buildings. This is wonderful. Did you actually?
Thanks.
Did you use white here, or were you?
No, that's the paper.
Okay, good.
Believe it or not.
I believe it.
Yeah, I like. If I have a choice, I'll only use whites to recover. But if I have posts like that, or tree trunks, or something, or a chimney, or something I want to paint, I prefer to try to cut around it, even if it's irregular. I personally would rather see the artist's hand in the construction of it than to have it just be absolutely perfectly straight. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I would rather have all of these be a little irregular as posts and have tried to paint around and then to go back later and try to strike them in mechanically.
Also, you probably don't use masking much either then.
I rarely, I haven't used masking in many years. I don't use it often at all.
Okay, let's go back to your painting, which now looks even better.
It's okay. I sorry about that break in it, but I think you get the idea. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I think it's terrific.
We
agree with that.
Yeah, there's some parts of it that came out pretty well. That tree part over there was really on the right path. But I will send you a photo of this, and I hope it's educational. It will certainly teach people what to do when they're in Zoom and making sure that their camera's plugged in. For no other reason than that.
Does anybody else have any questions for Eric? You can unmute yourself and ask him if you like.
Carol,
Yeah.
I would just like to thank Eric very much for both his demonstration and his goodwill. I can't even imagine how you deal with things like this when you know what you're doing. And to just sort of wing it is just amazing. I have loved what you've done and so much enjoyed watching your work. So
Oh, thank you very much.
And don't feel any kind of, I don't know, guilt or whatever it might be, because things technologically didn't quite work out.
Yeah, yeah, I know that's life's that way. I mean, I'll survive this. It's okay. I'm most disappointed for the people watching, not for me, but for the
No,
people watching.
no.
It's something I felt like I was taking us somewhere, and
Eric, no,
we're
no
not
apologies
disappointed.
necessary. The picture is gorgeous. You did an
Yeah.
Thank you.
awesome job, and it's just you don't know how good it is because maybe you're feeling a little bit flustered, but when you wake up tomorrow, you'll be a lot happier with it.
thank you. Thanks.
I'd like to add, one of the things that was very delightful was watching you make decisions about little abstract strokes that you knew were creating an illusion that you wanted. And you do it on the fly, you do it naturally. And that's a great lesson to everybody watching, that they don't have to draw every leaf, every branch, every little twig, and still get that illusion of what's happening within those masses. It's excellent.
Thanks. You bring up a very good point. There's a, every painting has a main actor. Like Mike likes painting buildings. You put something human in it, something animated in it, it's going to draw the human eye. But there's usually some point in the painting that draws your attention, and then sublimating the rest of the painting, making it the supporting actors and actresses, making it the backdrop. That I think really helps. Having a part out of focus, and then a part sort of in focus, really gives it a sense of depth and mystery. You want to have some things. You want to have some things for the viewer to do. You can't tell. Our job as artists is never to tell people what they already know. Our job is to tell them how we see the world. And if you realize that. If you hold your finger up in front of you and you stare at the tip of your finger and you don't take your eyes off it, when you're staring right at it, you realize that there's something behind it and on the side of it, but it's out of focus. That's how we see as people. We don't see everything. It's not like a camera. Cameras see everything. Everything's in focus. We don't see that way. So there has to be some sense of mystery. There has to be some way to draw people to an area, and that's by sublimating the other areas, either soften the edges, change the values. You have to, every artist has to decide for themselves. But even in a painting like this, which, okay, so maybe it's not going to be hanging in the Louvre, but at the same time, I think as a piece, I think it stands in terms of design and feeling. In other words, I think the values kind of hold. So, so I feel good about that. That could have been a lot worse. Yeah, always could be a lot worse. That's what's great about life.
No, I think it's wonderful. I don't think you failed at all.
Thank you. Thanks.
Great.
Anybody else would like anything at all? I'm certainly love to talk to you about it.
Do you paint dry? It's a dry paper.
You started
Yes,
dry
what-
paper, yeah.
It was dry when I started. Is that what you mean? Do I wet it in advance?
Yes.
No, rarely. No, rarely. I would rather, even if I have a fairly good sized wash like this over here, I struck in that blue and that violet, and everybody, oh my God, But look at it now. It's just, I don't know if you can tell, it's just a color. It's just a color change and a little, didn't change the value of the area. But when you do things like that, I would rather work the whole area and work really quickly than to wet it first. This way I can make some decisions as I'm going along. Once you wet it, everything just kind of explodes, it just explodes on the, so I kind of like starting out and adding water and wetness as I go to it. In a situation like this, of course, this had some cobalt blue, some raw sienna down here. Yeah, I painted wet into that, but when I'm working a big value area, I like to start with it dry.
Okay. Anybody else?
Thank
Super.
you.
That's all I can say is super.
No, thank you very much. Hey, thank you all for letting me do this. I'm sorry about the miscue in there. I'm honored to be doing this for you, and I really appreciate the giving me the opportunity.
Well, if you ever need any advice, Eric,
Like
not on painting.
life, love, sex, all that stuff. You mean?
All the regular stuff.
No, just more how to do it on the Zoom thing. But again, thank you very much, Eric. We
Thank you. Yeah.
really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Is that Ann talking?
It
Yes.
is.
Yeah, thank you, Ann. Thank you all very, very much for having me.
Okay, I'm going
Okay.
to stop the recording.